so I'm definitely going to try to speed this up because I realized I talked forever on my last video. But, alright, so to pick up where we left off, let me start the screen record. So to pick up where we left off, right now you should be seeing the UI we made. The UI we made. Okay, so right now, as you see, this does nothing. So to make it do what we want, which is to change the background, go down to the bottom and add your script tag, because you know, or see my last video if you don't know why. But I'll explain anyways, because this connects our JS file to the index. So at the moment we don't have one of those yet. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and like save this as, it's gonna be app.js. And now we know that it's a JavaScript. So to test if it's connected, you can just do the console.log, and we could type like a simple message. This is a test, one of my favorites. And if it's connected, when you refresh and go to the console, you should see this is a test. Now to get to that, you can simply click F12 on your keyboard. Again, I'm using two screens, so it opened up over here. But as you can see in the console, it does say this is a test. So you can go ahead and close that. And then when you go back to your JS file, you just delete that because you know it works. Okay, so pretty much to like, this is more of like a thinking part of like programming, besides the whole thing being thinking really. Okay, so when you get to this point, you really have to like think logistically for like how you could get this to work. So what do you want? You want, when you click the click me button, which is this, you want the background to change colors. So the first thing you would have to do is find out how to, well, cat just jumped on the counter. Anyways, find out how to select the click me button. Okay, so let's go back, and to select it, you need some type of identifier. You can either select the tag, you can select the class if it had one, or an ID if you have one. Now, for this example, you can use either. It's the only button, so when you click the button, like, of course it's gonna work, and you can give it a class and you can give it an ID. Now, generally speaking, when you do this, you should, like, based off of what purpose you want, you should generally be, like, the more specific, the better. Because if you use the tag, for instance, like the button tag, or the button tag, or just like an input tab, or just an anchor for like a link, if you use any of those and you just use the tag, every one of those will have the event that you're like trying to pop off. Now, from tags, then we go to class. Now, classes are for, it's kind of like ID. I didn't get to that yet though, but a class is essentially something you can give to an element for more specificity. You know what I mean? It's more specific. Okay, and the most specific is ID. Like, only one thing should have like a given ID. But I mean, there are like exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, the more specific, the better based off of the situation. Right now, just for general practice, I'm gonna go with ID. So I'm gonna go to this and I'm gonna give the button It does have a class on it, but that's just for the styling purposes, so we're not going to mess with any of that. I'm going to give it an ID of, ooh, what just happened there? Okay, anyways, I'm going to give it an ID, a button. So we know that this is the button. So the button has an ID now. So we can select this with JavaScript. Now, what we want to happen is when we want to click this, we want the color to change. I know I said that, but like the more like I reiterate it and break it down, the more like it'll stick with you. Well, at least that's how it does for me anyways. But yeah, so because the button has an ID, we can now select it. So now when we want, oh yeah, so now what we want to do is to when we click the click me button, the background change. Okay, so that, I'm trying to think of like how to say it. I guess that is what we call an event. So there are different types of events, not going to get into all of them, but when you click something, that's a click event. Okay, so now that we have that established, now I'm going to show you how to put an event on something. So first you have to grab the element. So because we put an ID on it, we're going to grab it by the ID. So we're going to say document, which is like this. The whole HTML form. This, what you see, is the HTML. This is the document, short for the DOM. So document dot query selector. There are many of these, so I'm not really going to get into that right now. So document query selector, and put that in quotes, and use hashtags for IDs. So document.query selector button, which is this. We want to add an event listener, and the event listener that we want is the click. So when a click happens, we want it to run the button click function. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a comment that this is our selector comments. Will save you, because if you're coding and you stop and then you resume coding, it would be like hieroglyphs to you. You won't even like know what you were doing. All right, so I'm going to add a comment. This is going to say this is the event for the button. You can put whatever you want. When you have a comment, comments aren't ran. Now the double slashes, that's indicative of a comment. Well, for CSS, there's different types of comments for each type of like code, or different syntax for the comment. Okay, so now that we have that, now I'm gonna add another one. It's gonna be like this is where the button function is. Okay, so this is going to be where the button function is. So, or the button click function as I named right here. So to start off, I'm going to say function, and the name of this said function is button click. I mean, we can pass in the E parameter, which I will get to later. But for right now, we can leave that blank. I don't even know why I brought that up. I might cover that, depending on the time. Anyways, so with the button click function, I want to console.log the button works. Now, I'm just doing that. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this so I can, actually, you should do this. It's good practice. Just to be able to tell if your button's working. So when I click let me save this actually. So since I know my page is my app.js file is connected to my index.js file, when I click the index or click this button in my console, it should say the button works. So let's try it out. I'm gonna open up my console, just to show y'all I'm not cheating. Okay. And when I click the button, it should say my button works, or this button works, or whatever I set it to. So look, it says the button works. And let me just minimize this so y'all can tell it's actually working. Ooh. Scoot that a little bit over. Hey, look. Okay, let me refresh the page. That was a bad example. Okay, refresh the page. Doesn't say it. You click, boom, does say it. Not frauding. On to the next step. Okay. So now that we have that established that this works, we want to go ahead and create the rest of our function that turns the background different colors. Okay, so now that we know that works, we're going to go ahead, get rid of all of that. So, okay, next phase of this, we want it to be a random color whenever the button is clicked. So we would have to create let's create a variable. I'll kind of like walk you through this. So we use the word let, okay, and I'm gonna say let random, which is what I'm naming the variable. You can name it anything you want, but you should name it something related to what you're working with, just so you're not confused in the future. So let random, okay, and to make a random number, there is a function. I actually used this in my last video I did about programming that creates a random number between 0 and 1. It's called the math.random function. Boom. Okay, so this is how we get the random number. So math.random gives us the number between 0 and 1, but we actually need a number higher than that. So now the way I'm going to do this is colors in CSS programming and just computers in general. You can use a hex value or you can use a RGB value. Your RGB value is the red, green, blue, and the combination of those red, green, and blues create every other possibility ever. Now, I'm kind of confused why yellow isn't in there, because yellow is a prime color, but I'm not sure if like the prime colors and the RGB values are linked. I don't know. I didn't come up with this. This is just how it is. So for this, the highest RGB value you can have is 256. So think about that. If I pull up a calculator, and so 256 by times 256 equals 65,536, and then if you multiply that by 256, that's how many possible combinations of colors we can make. Actually, I might have did that wrong. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure I didn't though. Actually, might be 255 for the RGB value. Actually, the RGB value is actually 255. Pretty sure. So 255 times 255, that gives you 65,000 times 255. Yes, this seems right. So that's how many possible color combinations. I might have missed a detail or two, but you can Google that if you're really interested. So anyway, so I'm going to use the math.random, and I'm going to multiply that by 255. Actually, 256 to get a random number between a random number between 0 and 256. Now this is going to give me a decimal, so I'm going to wrap this in a math.floor, which will round the number down. So if it's like 0.4, it'll just round to like the closest like whole number. So that's what random is. So random is going to see let random equal math.floor. All right. Yes. Okay. So I was right. So boom. So what this says pretty much is create a random number between 1 or 0 and 1. Round that. To multiply that by 256. And then round that down and set it equal to the random value. And to test if this works, we just do like console.log. Like I said, never go wrong with console.log. It's your best friend. And we could just put in the variable random. And then if we save this bad boy, and then we go to this, and I guess we can, could dock that to the bottom. So every time we, I gotta refresh the page. Right, every time we click this button, it's going to give us a random number between 1, or I guess 0 and 255. So there's that. And with the RGB value, there's the red, the green, and the blue value. So we're going to need 3 of these because we want 3 different values, 3 different random numbers. So it's 1, 2, 3. And we can just set this to random, random 2, and random 3. And we can get rid of this. Get rid of that console.log. Geez, like explaining this, like, I don't know, it's like taking way longer than I thought it would. Okay, so now that we have that, we have to select the body. This, everything you see right here is the body. So we want to be able to change the background of the body. I mean, I guess like not everything you see is about, but generally speaking, this like all of this is on the body. Okay, I know that's a little bit confusing, but for the sake of this, that's all you really need to know. So now to select the body, you can do document dot body, and this document dot body, okay, my bad, I am back. I just confused myself. So boom, so the way that I'm doing, because I'm pretty much doing this like straight off the rip as I do this, as I'm also simultaneously watching Dragon Ball Z in the background. So, to get this done, we need to select the body. You can do this all in one line, but to break things up to a more readable format, this is what you do. So we're gonna select the body. So we're gonna go let, and then it's gonna be it's gonna let body equal, and it's going to be document dot get element by tag name, and the tag we want is body. I want your body. Alright, so body, and pretty much what I'm going to put the brackets here for and the 0, so we know that like we only want like the highest level, the very, very first body. Even though there's only one body on the document, like everything everything else that is on the document can also be selected if you don't specify. So we want to change the body. So we go let body equals document.get element with tag name body 0. You can test this, but I'm fairly certain this works. So after that, now that we have the body selected, now we can go ahead and set the background and change the color for the body. So now we go body, because we have that, dot style, because we want to style it, dot background, because we want the background color. We want that to be RGB. And okay, so this is where we use, actually I just messed it up. We want the body to equal, and this is where we can use string interpolation, which I also covered in my last video, to get the color. So we want RGB. And then it's gonna be, okay, wait, I think I did this right. Okay, I'm pretty sure that wasn't right. And I'm just gonna go with this, and if this isn't right, then I'm gonna do what I was gonna do before. But anyways, it's gonna be RGB, and no, this is definitely right. This is definitely the right way to do this. Okay, and if it's not, y'all don't gotta watch my videos anymore. Okay, so we got the RGB, and now we can put in random, and comma, let me just copy this in here, paste, comma, paste, and then go back. Put the random 2, random 3. Let me save, and let me go back to the color changer, refresh, and boom, we in business. Then now when you click the button, it does work. Okay, now the other thing I was going to show you that I really didn't want to get into in this video, and it's pretty much like the E. It kind of gives you like information on your event. So like under this, if I put console.log and then just put the E variable, and I save it, and refresh the page, and click the button a couple times. It kind of tells me that, like, look, there's a mouse event fired off, and then you can get more information like about the event, like the specific coordinates of the X and Y where the button was pressed, like a whole bunch of information. But yeah, I know the video ran kind of long. Thanks for sticking in there with me, and